Welcome to the Landlord Diaries, where we talk about midterm rentals and the opportunities behind them. We'll share landlord stories, talk about maximizing investment potential, and discuss how to live the very best landlord life. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Furnished Finder, the leader and largest online marketplace for midterm rentals. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content.
It's your hosts of the Landlord Diaries podcast, Kelly Bailey and Katie Lyon, coming to you from the Furnished Finder marketing team. We are midterm rental investors ourselves. And if you're like, what is a midterm rental? It is any furnished rental that is 30 plus days, so monthly furnished rentals, and it serves a variety of traveler needs that we get into today on our episode. Katie, we got our first North Dakota story today because we are nationwide with over 300,000 properties available for travelers all throughout the U.S. So what did you learn from Lee today, Katie?
Yeah, with Lee, it was great because, again, it's a market that he's in North Dakota that's not the most, there's not a whole lot of tourists going there. There's not Broadway shows. There's not sandy beaches or amusement parks. But it's just a good area for travelers that are going there for needs, which are a lot of our travelers, right? They're going there to provide healthcare services. They're going there for working contracts. So we talk about how he has more demand than he can even serve and how successful he's been, even in a market that you might not anticipate it in. So this is a great one. I encourage you to just kind of open your eyes to different markets as you listen to Lee and his success that he has had in North Dakota.
Lee Gierszewski is our first Landlord Diaries guest for North Dakota. Lee specializes in multifamilies and has 8 midterm rentals on Furnished Finder in the greater Bismarck area. A majority of Lee's midterm rental bookings come from Furnished Finder or referrals from Furnished Finder guests. Lee and his partner bought 8 multifamilies in 1 year, which we will discuss on today's episode. Lee, thanks so much for being with us today. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great. So on our previous call, you mentioned Furnished Finder has been a game changer, and you have 4 listings and 4 units on Furnished Finder. Tell us about your midterm rental portfolio and what led you to midterm rentals.
Basically, what I have is I've got a 4-plex where 3 of those are furnished rentals. And then I have a triplex where 2 of those are furnished rentals. And I have a 6-plex that has 4 furnished rentals right now. And then I also have another 4-plex with another partner that has 1 furnished rental, basically all in Bismarck.
And you have quite a few long-term rentals. So what led to converting some of those long-term rentals to midterm rentals, or just, choosing certain purchases to go straight into midterm?
It was just kind of dumb luck. We'd actually purchased a portfolio from a retiring person and just used them as rentals for a while. And then right after that, we found another 4-plex that was completely vacant, been rehabbed pretty decently. And we walked into it and we're like, God, this would be great for an Airbnb, but we just didn't know who would ever Airbnb in Bismarck, North Dakota. So we didn't do it for a year or 2. And then one tenant moved out. We're like, let's just try it. And as the Airbnb started, it took off immediately. And then that got us into the furnishing rentals. And while we were doing an Airbnb guest, one gal asked if she could stay for 3 months. And I was like, why? And she's like, well, I work at the hospital and I'm a travel nurse and they have a contract for 3 months. And I'm like, okay. So then he'd mentioned the Furnished Finder, and that's basically how I found out about it. And then since then, it's been game on.
Awesome. And what percentage of your midterm rental bookings come from Furnished Finder?
I'd say right around 85, 90%. And if the first one wasn't a Furnished Finder referral or Furnished Finder person, the person in there would refer another nurse from the hospital saying, hey, I'm staying here. You get a hold of this guy because he's got a good rental. And then they just come in by referral like that. So I still consider them kind of like a Furnished Finder find.
Awesome. Well, one thing I loved about our first call is you are great with numbers and talking about the numbers. So that was something that really stood out to you for the midterm rental space. So why don't you run through some of those numbers and what the long-term rents are for your multifamilies versus what you can get for midterm rental?
Okay, so basically on the first one that we did, we were renting that unit. It was just a smaller, almost like an efficiency. We were getting $600 a month for it. And then once the gal moved out, we furnished it for about $4,000, so one bed, out TV, stuff like that. And the first tenant we rented it to was paying us $1,200 a month. So it was instantly double what we were getting per month to the same unit. And now, right, we're getting, I think, around $1,400 a month for it on a consistent basis. And then that's just a one bed, one bath.
Wow, so you more than doubled that.
Yeah, it was like a game changer. Just always at the same place, we're getting twice the rent, but our mortgage is staying the same.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then did that trend carry over into your other units as well that you furnished, that you were able to like at least double the long-term rent?
Yes, it was double or more. So like on the sixplex we bought, we were getting on average for the two bed, one bath with in-unit washer dryer around $850 to $900 a month. And now across the board, it's $2,000 per two bed, one bath.
Yeah. I think this is I like that you're in North Dakota as well. A lot of people think that these kind of like, the not as popular states can't cash flow as well, or they can't do as well. When in reality, these midterm tenants, they're traveling because they need to go somewhere, right? They're for a work contract. They're working in a hospital. They're maybe on a corporate project, or they're relocating. So the demand for them is still incredibly high, even if in these areas that don't necessarily have the tourist attraction or the seasonal appeal, there's still a lot of that demand that can render these higher rents because these travelers need somewhere to stay, right? And so not only are they getting somewhere quality that they can stay, but it's providing a good investment for you as well.
Another thing I heard about that is like North Dakota is the highest paid state for travel nurses because nobody wants to come here. So I mean
Right.
that works in my favor too.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, before we dive into North Dakota and what draws someone to your area for travel nursing or other industries, let's circle back to that conversation about multifamily. So you bought 8 multifamilies in 1 year. So how did you secure these multifamilies? Did you use your own financing? Yeah, let's hear how you made that happen.
Well, basically, I'd bought a few duplexes by myself, me and the wife, and my property manager had saw me doing this, and he's like, "Do you want to buy more?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. So we just got to find the right deal, you know." And we happened to find a person that was retiring. He had 7 or 8 properties, and he just wanted to sell them as a portfolio. So we reached out to him, talked to him, did all the negotiations, finally agreed on a price, and then we basically each had to come up with, I think it was $105,000. And I basically, I'd spent most of my money. So I cashed out some or took a loan out on my 401k, refinanced my car. Just, the bank gave me a $20,000 unsecured line of credit. So it was basically me and my partner that did it all. But we have always had to say we had couch cushion surfing for money. Just had to get to that number. And I think to get me over to that 105, I had to take out like a $5,000 loan from the credit card. So, I mean, I got there, but then I knew that it was going to be worth it towards the end. So it was getting there was a tough thing. But then the day we closed on the deal, we had $100,000 in equity. And then basically what had happened is with that $100,000 in equity, we'd found the first fourplex that we ever used for the furnished rental the next month. And the bank actually let us refinance out that $100,000 and we bought that fourplex.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's insane. I can't believe it actually worked out.
Yeah. Because I mean, when you're talking 8 multifamilies, $100K doesn't seem like too much to have to come up with to get 8 full multifamilies, and now you're able to, 2 times the cash flow of long-term rentals with the midterm rental strategy on those multifamilies, you're doing a fantastic job. So let's talk about North Dakota in the Bismarck area. What are the perks of why someone should invest in the Bismarck area or in North Dakota? And are there, high seasons and low seasons? What's it like in North Dakota?
So I'd say that there are high and low seasons. It seems like it's much busier during the summer because then in the winter it does get cold, so people don't want to be here as much, But I mean, it's a great community. It's maybe I'd say the entire area is maybe around 100,000, but there are 2 local hospitals that are about the same size. So like it draws them from. There's more of a travel nurse pool just because of the 2 hospitals. They're not level 1s, but it's still. They still service the area within 150 miles. There's also a refinery on the western edge of town. And like this summer, they had a turnaround. So that increased my demand exponentially for the furnished rentals. Like I was getting called every day, but if I could have had 30 or 40 of them, I'd had them all filled. But I ran out,
Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Furnished Finder, the ultimate platform for hassle-free midterm rentals. Whether you're a seasoned landlord or just getting started, Furnished Finder has everything you need to find your next tenant. With Furnished Finder, you can say goodbye to booking fees, markups, and commissions, and hello to direct bookings. If you're ready to experience all the benefits renting your property for 30 days or more, head over to furnishedfinder.com where you can list your property for one low annual price. We make it easy to get started.
I think it's really important for everybody to know that, there are hospitals everywhere if you're going for medical professionals. And medical professionals are less than half of our travelers, but they're a very steady traveler base, and they're really great if you want, if that's kind of your target tenant. We have plenty. They're all on Furnished Finder, right? And they are going to places like North Dakota or Idaho or Missouri or, you need healthcare everywhere. So I think that I love that you mentioned that. And they really need stable and great housing, even in these places that might not pop up, when you're Googling, what are the 10 best markets for me to invest? Sometimes it's not the markets that are on those lists, but it's just right there in your backyard. When we started our investing journey personally, like we were looking at these more popular markets and the ones that were making the headlines and things like that. And actually where we found success is in the Midwest. And it's where nothing is special. It's special, but I mean like nothing's like, nobody's traveling there to go to the beach or nobody's going there to see a Broadway show, but they're just good people. There's really good hospitals and there is a great demand there.
And it's pretty safe too.
Yes. I'm curious what you have found. I have actually found that in the Midwest, when I'm working with my handyman or my cleaner or even like pest control people or anyone who's going to go fix the furnace, everybody is so down to earth. And I love that kind of, I live in Denver and everybody here is wonderful. I love the culture here, but just when you get in a bigger city, I'll call the pest control people or the HVAC people and it's more of a process and, everything's a little bit more structured. Whereas I feel like my properties in the Midwest, I can just give them a call. I'm going to talk to the person I'm going to work with and they'll show up, they'll do a great job. And it almost feels like the clock has been turned back 10 or 15 years. And I love that kind of vibe that exists there.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. Like even last week, I had a wasp issue, so I called one of the pest control companies. They came out, sprayed it, and then the travel tenant, she's like, "They're back." I'm like, "Oh crap!" And I called the company again, and then the guy texted me within a half hour, like, "I'll be out there in a couple hours," and take care of it.
Yeah,
That's awesome. It's such a important part of the midterm rental process is y'all pest control team too, and just all of your contract teams. So, Lee, one thing that you do really well, and you've already said North Dakota is not necessarily the first place that travel nurses are choosing to go, but that's why it has one of the highest paid positions for travel nursing. But you have a really high extension rate where they'll not only stay 3 months, but they'll extend for another 3 months and you'll have 6 month stays. So, what do you think some of those factors are that are helping them choose to stay longer with you? And I think location is one of those things that has been a huge benefit for you as well.
And yeah, definitely location because most of my furnished rentals are within 6 to 8 blocks of both hospitals because both hospitals are right next to each other. So it was dumb luck that we happened to buy these properties and they worked out that way. But then the other thing is the community is, I think people actually like it when they're here. Like, I mean, the summers here are awesome. You can hang out with the kids or walk your dog wherever you want. It's just one of those, like an amenity almost. And then my units are also really nice, so that helps, I think.
Yeah. And then you communicate very well, I think within 5 to 10 minutes of someone reaching out to you. So, how do you recommend that balance of not feeling like you always have to be on for midterm rentals because it is a form of passive income where you can make money while you sleep, and you don't have as many flips throughout the year. On average, it's 4 flips per year, but it is still work. You are still furnishing the properties. It's hospitality. So how do you balance that communication with a quick response and getting referrals from your travel nurses for future guests? How do you make that happen?
And I guess my phone's always by me. I'm a realtor too, so it's like I've got to answer phone calls all the time. And if someone shoots me a text message like something's not working, I at least respond to them like, "Hey, we'll get someone out there." And that's really all you need. It's just a response. So like they feel like they're being noticed or appreciated, and it just goes a long way because I get messages with I think like thanking me for my attention to my property. Basically, is what the last girl said.
Awesome. And I think one thing that you also do is provide solutions, right? I think you have a Murphy bed example for that?
Yeah, so we had a family move in that was for the refinery turnaround. They had 3 kids, and the only thing I had available was a 2 bed, 1 bath. So we had a little workspace office area. We had a desk there, and the wife was like, "Well, maybe we should put a Murphy bed there so that the kid doesn't have to sleep on the couch the entire time, and it doesn't ruin our couch." So we went on Wayfair, found a decent Murphy bed, and then just basically explained to them, "Hey, here's a bed for you instead of a desk," and they loved it.
Well, Lee, you said around 85% of your bookings come from Furnished Finder. So you're doing something right in your marketing and in your communication and in your retention. So we just want to encourage other hosts with some of those same tips. One thing I notice is you're split half and half. You have the Furnished Finder entire unit feature. You have a Furnished Finder entire units, and then you have 4 unit features, which if someone doesn't understand how that operates, with multifamilies or duplexes or a home that has an ADU in the back that all shares one address, well, then you can choose to add a unit to that property for a bit lesser cost than you would for the entire unit, but less about the cost and more about the functionality. It shows up on that listing, and so let's say it's a room rental situation and you've got a 4 bedroom house with 4 rooms. Well, you can advertise, and this is what we recommend, each one of those units. So same thing for Lee's multifamilies. He's got he's got some triplexes, he's got some fourplexes. So you can advertise each of those units rolled up under one unit, so that everyone can see which options are at that location. So what do you think about that feature and the functionality, Lee, and just overall marketing of how you stand out on Furnish Finder in your area?
Like with them all together like that, it helps me just identify which one I'm actually working with. It's like somebody reaches out for like a furnished finder inquiry, I know which one they're talking about right away. So that helps me. And then the big thing for me with furnished finder is just I'll get a notification on my phone, and even if I don't have something that fits, at least reach out to them like, "Hey, I have this. It might not quite fit your need, but it's a possibility. So if you can't find something, circle back to me and I can maybe make it work." So that helps me
Yeah.
deal with more people. And it's just simply responding. Like, I don't know, at least I get a response back. Like I've had a couple this week like I sent them out a little feeler, and they're like, "Oh, I've already found something," or I'm still looking, but I'll reach back out. Thanks for responding. Like they're appreciative that you actually responded.
Yeah, definitely. And you have a fun naming convention for your listings, and you tie those in your headlines, and just kind of have a playful way of approaching the title. So let's talk about that a little bit. How do you name your headlines or your properties?
So basically, instead of addresses, because me and my partner doesn't know which one I'm talking about half the time, we've put names to everything. So like in one of our fourplexes, we started everyone with a M. So like there was a girl in the basement, her name was Madison, so we named the place Madison. And then main floor we figured Mayflower. Upstairs magenta because it's just a fun printer color. I don't know. And then the sixth plex, the apartment was called the Mariah, and I've got a friend of mine who's got 4 kids, and one of them is Mariah, so that we just carried on with that tradition. So it's Mariah, Ashton, Bergen, Gibson, and then we actually had to fill another unit in there. They ran out of kids, so we just named it the Jessammark after Jesse and Mark.
Hey landlords, are you ready to level up your rental game and simplify your midterm rental business? Well, get ready to meet your new best friend, KeyCheck. KeyCheck is your all-in-one solution for stress-free property management. With tenant-paid screenings, online rent payment processing, custom lease creation, and a suite of incredible landlord tools, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. No more chasing down checks or sifting through piles of applications. KeyCheck helps you organize and manage all things landlording in a simple and efficient way. Make landlord life a breeze with KeyCheck, the game changer for modern property owners. Visit keycheck.com to unlock the power of stress-free property management and take your rental business to new heights.
Kelly, do you have nicknames for any of your properties that you guys refer to them as, you and Dave, like when you're talking about a certain one?
Yeah, mine are pretty boring. They're like the color. We like colorful houses, so it goes back to the yellow house or the green house, or sometimes we'll roll up to the street it's on, or my favorite is probably we've named our 300 square foot ADU. We named it the Songbird. And we chose that name because there is the most soothing, gentle church bells that go off in the background throughout the day. So if I'm there like doing a project at the property, or we happen to have a weekend that we can go enjoy, it's in the heart of downtown Belton, which is a cute city in Texas. So anytime I hear those church bells, I run outside and just take a deep breath and enjoy. So that's probably my favorite one. What about you, Katie?
I love that. We do have nicknames. Some of them are the street names. Some of them are as simple as the townhouse, because we only have one townhouse. And if we ever get another townhouse, we're going to be in trouble. Or the condo, because I guess we have multiple condos, but only one that we own and not arbitrage. Some of the other ones get very confusing because they're in the same building. So it's like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, but that's not their unit numbers. And their unit numbers are very close to the building numbers. It gets really confusing for us for some of them, so I have to have some cheat sheets. But I think having some nicknames, I really like how yours are more tenant facing though. Like you've almost kind of branded each of yours versus just having a nickname. And I like that versus saying, the cozy apartment. Or I always tell people, I'm like, stop using the word cozy or quaint when you're talking about midterm rentals. All you did is tell me that it's small. But I think when you're calling it like the Madison or something like that, like if I'm a traveler and I'm scrolling through, I'm going to remember like, oh, I was looking at the Madison, or I was looking at, one of these other names that you said. It's gives it something that a traveler can remember, and something that also is meaningful for your organization purposes.
And that kind of helps me too. Like when they reach out, they're like, I was looking at the magenta, then I know exactly what they're talking about instead of a unit 29,107 or whatever.
Right.
Great point.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe we end with just a roundtable discussion. So one thing that we've heard on our show over and over again is how small to medium-sized cities are really the niche for a lot of midterm operators, including Katie and I. So, Lee, do you have any advice to give listeners looking for where to buy their first or next midterm rental around the nation?
I'd basically say look for somewhere close to a hospital, something that might maybe need a little bit of work, because then you can, like I would say, maybe edit it to a travel nurse. Just kind of fix it up that way.
Awesome.
I really can't think of much. I kind of dumb lucked into them, so I'll just,
You know what? I think it would be surprising how many, if you're one that just decided to jump in and not really do the research, put it in the comments, share your story. Dave and I were kind of the same. We're like, hey, let's try this thing out. Let's start with our own property and just rent it out. And then we'll find a place to live if it gets rented. And then we'll come back eventually. And that's exactly what we did. And we added about 3 to 5 properties over 2 years by just that mentality. It wasn't a lot of data or hard research that went into it. It was just like, hey, this one worked. Let's go find another place similar and make that one work. And it's been a great success. And same as Lee, a majority of our bookings come from Furnished Finder. We've had great guests that, that's one thing that's really nice about the midterm rental strategy is the tenant type is so respectful. They communicate well. They want to take care of your place. There's not a lot of communication unless there's something that they need to hear more about, or just as something comes up. So it's really great tenant type for midterm rentals. Katie, what advice do you have for jumping into midterm rentals around the nation?
Yeah, I think there's a different comfort level for everybody, but what I hate to see is when people get stuck in analysis paralysis and they just are trying to overthink every little situation, every possibility, everything that could happen, or, you're running the numbers until your face turns blue. It's like at some point you have to try it. And this is particularly true with midterm rentals, right? Especially I think if you're coming from the short-term rental world, you're used to having so many different data points that you can run against. And we have data points and resources within midterm rentals, but it's just a little bit different, right? Because our tenants are different, the demand is different, but it's a lot steadier, right? So a lot of people that I talk to that particularly are coming from the short-term world are like, they're wanting more and more and more and more data. And I'm like, look, try it, right? And make sure that you can pivot. Like anytime we're doing a new property, we make sure that like if all else fails, we could rent it as a long-term rental. That we would at least break even if we had to run it as a long-term rental. But sometimes you have to just try it and you have to see if it sticks, because some of this is an art and it is making your property very appealing. It's how you communicate with tenants. You can't add that in a spreadsheet. You can't add in, okay, if I make my apartment really welcoming and really comfortable for my target tenant type, I'll be able to charge a higher rent, right? And then my expenses can be a little bit higher. You can't always add for these things. A lot of these things are discretionary. So try it and know that you can always change. It's easy to tweak things. It's easy to lower the price or raise the price or adjust your expense. Like you could change these things.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. So if you are one of those that is more data driven, well, then what we recommend is get on furnishedfinder.com/stats. And that's the midterm rental data that Furnished Finder provides for your area. It's gives you kind of like price points, bedroom sizes, things like that. And then if you look in the cities of interest that you're thinking of investing or already investing at the long-term level or the short-term level, and you think, okay, yeah, this looks good. I want to dive in deeper. Then we recommend flipping over to the map, the Furnished Finder map, and check out the competition in your area. How are you going to compete price-wise, style-wise, professional photos, etc. And then look for those with future availability or 5-star reviews, because those are ones that are likely booked right now at the price point listed on Furnished Finder. And that's a great way to research midterm rentals. But yeah, if you just want to try it, one of the nicest things to do, especially if you're a long-term investor and you're looking to increase your cash flow, which is for the midterm rental level, is typically 1.5 to 2 times the rate of long-term rentals. In Lee's case, we see he's a more closer to the 2 times or greater with his multifamilies, which is nice with multifamilies. You can list your property unfurnished with those professional unfurnished photos when your next availability is coming up and say, furniture coming soon. So we have many episodes and experiences, including myself, of a lot of times you get it rented before you even have it completely furnished, and now you've got a deadline to make sure that you're ready for that first midterm rental guest. Lee, any last thoughts or real estate investing advice you'd like to add for our listeners here and midterm rental investors?
I guess that when you said about not even being furnished before it was rented, I had one property that I had rented before I even had a kitchen installed. It was basically a gutted unit, but we had such demand. I was like, all right, I'll take it. But I've basically got 1 month to get this entire place ready. It was chaos, but we did it.
Nice.
I mean,
that's great.
But like you said, just try it. I mean, like for me, if it all fails, I'm going to have one of the greatest rummage sales ever. There's going to be 20, 30 TVs, tons of couches, all kinds of beds. But I just don't see that happening.
That's awesome. And that's part of the try it. You don't need a full kitchen always. You just need a way for a midterm rental guest to be able to cook their favorites. So like Instapots and stovetop griddles, crock pots, things like that make great options for ADUs or additions to your home. So look at your portfolio or how you want to get started. And we'd love to hear in the comments just how did you get started? What was your first step in midterm rentals? Or what are your questions about midterm rentals that we can help point you in the right direction? So thanks for tuning in today. We've had another great episode of the Landlord Diaries. Stay with us every week. Don't forget to subscribe or share our show with a friend if you find great value out of our content. Have a great day, everyone. Catch you next week. Bye.